"Rachel, I will protect you for the rest of my life." Hearing those words declared with a bashful yet firm tone, Lindsay involuntarily stopped in her tracks because, after all, that voice belonged to her husband. When she slowly turned around, not believing what she just heard, there they were, her husband and her best friend, arms crossed and smiling happily at each other. Unable to comprehend the situation, she stood there, dumbfounded, as a joyful atmosphere filled the air around her. Regaining her senses, Lindsay managed to smile and made her way through the crowd to step forward. Then, ignoring the surprised looks from both her husband and friend, she walked up to the stage. They looked at her, unable to say anything, holding each other tightly as if to protect one another. Lindsay smiled at them and looked around the noisy venue, silencing the crowd. Then, she took the microphone from her husband, took a deep breath, and properly introduced herself. "I am the wife who wasn't protected. My name is Lindsay, a 26-year-old housewife. My family runs a high-end steak restaurant, and I've been helping out there even after getting married. I have a friend who I've been close with since high school. Her name is Rachel. She's someone I can call my best friend. Rachel is flashy, but has a bright personality and is kind to everyone, always considerate. Of course, that was the same towards me when we first became classmates in high school. Seeing me nervous, she slowly started to talk to me. Gradually, we began to talk more, and now we are best friends who can share anything with each other. Rachel and I graduated from high school and went to the same university, continuing to be good friends. Joining the same student club, we had fun times. When we met Tom was a senior and the leader of the student club. Kind, sincere, and reliable, I was attracted to him. Rachel noticed my feelings quickly, and I consulted with her about many things. As Tom was graduating, Rachel suggested I confess to him. I wasn't planning to go that far, but pushed by Rachel's strong encouragement, I confessed, expecting to be turned down. But it was a success. Tom and I started dating, and after I graduated from university, we got married. However, we decided not to have a wedding ceremony, just greeting each other's parents and obtaining a marriage license. Thus, Tom and I became husband and wife, and we started our life together in a new apartment. My parents suggested we live in a house, but Tom declared he would build one in the future, which satisfied them. The beginning of our married life seemed smooth. Tom worked hard and saved for our future, always kind to me. One day, I made a suggestion to Tom. It was the day when he came home early from work, which was rare. We were sitting on the living room sofa, enjoying our time together. Seeing an opportunity as our conversation paused, I told Tom I wanted children. "Well, yeah, that's right. I'll work even harder then, considering that." Tom's response was somewhat unexpected, but raising a child costs money. Honestly, my parents could help financially, but Tom seemed not to want to rely on them. When we moved to our new home, I had asked Tom why he refused my parents' offer to help. He wanted to manage our life on our own. I was deeply impressed by Tom. Similarly, he wanted to raise our child with our efforts, and I was moved by Tom's thoughtfulness, leaving me speechless. However, a suspicious event gradually made me question Tom. It was about 2 years into our marriage. I told Tom I wanted a child again. "But it's about time for that, isn't it?" "All right, I'll start studying child rearing," Tom said with a smile, leaving me speechless. Perhaps he was indirectly refusing. That doubt crossed my mind, and I couldn't say anything more. Moreover, Tom has been busy with work and hardly comes home lately. It wasn't like this at first, but since he said he would study child rearing, he began to come home later and later. Tom got a job before me, so it was natural for him to gradually climb the corporate ladder and become busier. However, starting the day after we talked about having children, coming home after the date changes, or suddenly not coming home because of a sudden drinking party seemed suspicious no matter how I thought about it. When he came home late, I tried to be considerate to make him comfortable, but he started to react coldly to everything, as if trying to distance himself from me. In addition to that, Tom started doing something unthinkable before, especially late. He began visiting my parents' house after work or drinking parties to eat our steaks. While I was happy about it, when Tom, who had said he wanted to rely on my parents as little as possible, cheerfully suggested. It must be hard to cook every day, right? Why don't you just come to Lindsay's place to eat from now on? I almost dropped the plate I was holding. After such incidents continued, I decided to carefully observe Tom's actions. His behavior when he came home, how he acted when relaxing, and unavoidably, I also checked for any signs of infidelity. But there were no such signs from Tom, and maybe because my observations were too apparent, he began to stay away from home even more. The frequency of him not coming home all night without any contact or coming home while I was asleep and leaving before I woke up started to increase. Just as such a lifestyle was becoming the norm, Tom unexpectedly came home for dinner after a long time. "What's up? It's rare for you to come home today." Without much thought, I blurted out what was on my mind. Immediately after, I regretted it, but Tom didn't seem to mind and casually said, "Yeah, I was supposed to work late today, but a business trip came up suddenly for tomorrow. I need to prepare now." Saying that without even changing clothes, Tom took out a large suitcase from his room and started packing hurriedly. Occasionally, he would ask me where this or that was, prompting me to help with the packing in a rush. Once the packing was done, Tom suddenly claimed he was hungry, so I had no choice but to serve some food I had prepared for myself. "Lindsay's cooking, it's been a while. Food made by someone else really is the best, isn't it?" After finishing his meal neatly, Tom went straight to take a bath and then to bed. I sighed deeply while cleaning up. The next day, Tom left for his business trip before I woke up. I wondered when he would return. Ultimately, Tom didn't tell me how long he would be on his business trip. He took about a week's worth of clothes, probably planning to use a coin laundry to rotate them. Alone again, I spent my days doing household chores, reading books, and living a tasteless life. In the evening, I would go back to my parents' house to help with the shop. 5 days had passed since Tom left on his business trip. Living in such a cycle this day, we received an order for appetizers from Rachel's house for the first time in a long while. Actually, Rachel is the daughter of a wealthy family, often using my parents' shop for parties at her home. Since graduating from college, Rachel had entered a company to gain experience for taking over her family's business, so she probably hadn't had many chances to throw parties. Hearing from Rachel after such a long time naturally brightened my voice. "Lindsay, it's been a while. Can I ask for your appetizers again like before?" "It's been a while, Rachel. Of course, how many servings should I bring this time?" It was a small party, so the order was for 50 people. To me, that still seemed like a lot, but for Rachel, it was considered small. I immediately told my parents and decided to personally deliver the appetizers to Rachel's house as it had been a while. On the day of delivery, once the ordered appetizers were ready, I proudly headed to Rachel's house. I wasn't interested in the party's details, but I was looking forward to possibly meeting Rachel. I rang the doorbell and introduced myself. Then the housekeeper opened the door for me, letting me in while saying it had been a while. I was led to the hall, which was the venue, and I began arranging the ordered items on the table. The party itself seemed to have already started, with Rachel's father, David, giving a speech. I tried not to disturb anyone while I was setting up, but the people around me showed no interest in me, the person delivering the appetizers. Just when I was about to finish setting up, the people behind me suddenly started clapping loudly. I was so surprised that I almost spilled the sauce I was holding, but I took a deep breath and managed to hold on. Then I heard someone stepping onto the stage and starting to speak. However, I recognized the voice, and just as I was about to finish everything and leave, I found myself stopping in my tracks. The next words I heard made my mind go blank. "Rachel, I will protect you for the rest of my life." Hearing that declaration bashfully made, I couldn't think of anything. The voice that echoed throughout the hall belonged to my husband, Tom. Thinking it couldn't be, I slowly turned around, and there were Tom and my best friend Rachel, arms crossed and smiling happily at each other. Unable to comprehend the situation, I stood there, dumbfounded. A celebratory atmosphere filled the air in front of me. I came to my senses, forced a smile on my face, and decided to make my way forward through the crowd. Then, appearing in front of Tom and Rachel, both of them noticed me and gasped in surprise. Ignoring the two of them who looked at me as if they'd seen a monster, I stepped onto the stage, and they slowly backed away. After stepping down from the stage, they looked at me, unable to say anything, holding each other as if to protect themselves. The entire venue became noisy at the strange sight, and Rachel's parents began to demand what was going on from the two. But they just held each other and looked at me without answering. I smiled at them and looked around the noisy venue, silencing the crowd. As I looked around, the noise gradually subsided, and eventually everyone was waiting for what I had to say. After confirming this, I suddenly turned back to the two, snatched the microphone from a frightened Tom, took a deep breath, and properly introduced myself. Good evening, everyone. I am the wife who wasn't protected. Saying this, not only the invited guests, but also Rachel's parents were wide-eyed and surprised. From their reactions alone, it was clear that this was a plan between Rachel and Tom alone. In a hurry, I decided to turn back to Rachel, who was arguing with Tom, and asked with a smile still on my face, "Hey, Rachel, are you getting married to this man? Congratulations, then." As I spoke, Rachel held her breath and clung to Tom, and Tom, clinging back to Rachel, made it seem as if I was the villain. Unsatisfied with this, I decided to explain the situation politely to everyone in the venue other than Rachel and Tom. Ladies and gentlemen, you might have gathered here today for what you believe is these two's wedding announcement party, but you are mistaken. Today's party is not a wedding announcement but an affair revelation, so please make no mistake. After saying this, not only the venue but also Rachel's parents became even more upset. Therefore, I decided to report the detailed situation and question the two. First of all, Tom here is my husband. We didn't have a wedding ceremony as I didn't wish for it, but we are married, and next to him is Rachel, who has been my best friend since high school. In short, I was just betrayed by my best friend and husband. Is this a coincidence? I said, turning to face Rachel and Tom. However, no response came from the two, and I shrugged my shoulders. Then Rachel's mother, Sophia, mentioned that she had not heard about me being married. That comment made me realize what Rachel had intended. Rachel had been aiming for Tom since we got married, or perhaps even before that. Glancing at Rachel, she was biting her lip and glaring at me, and when our eyes met, she let go of Tom and lunged at me. "Stop lying, I haven't betrayed you." Hearing Rachel start with something so unconvincing at this point, I sighed and continued the conversation. "Did you all hear that? Rachel says she hasn't betrayed me, but what does that mean exactly? Rachel, who wholeheartedly supported me dating Tom and was the happiest about our marriage announcement. Who is she really?" "Stop it already! What's with that way of speaking? It's so irritating. Someone get her out of here!" Rachel shrieked, and David silenced her with a loud voice. My parents, who were completely unaware of the situation until now, seemed to want to hear the story from me. If that's the case, I have to make sure everyone here, especially Rachel's parents, hear me out. As I mentioned earlier, it's thanks to Rachel that Tom and I started dating, and it was Rachel who was so happy when we announced our marriage. But why are Rachel and Tom trying to get married behind my back now? Tom, I'd like you to explain that. This time, I turned the conversation to Tom, who was panicking and looking pitiful instead of the furious Rachel. As expected, when I named Tom, he was shocked, shuddering, and could only mutter incoherently. Unable to stand it anymore, I chose my words to provoke him and asked again. "I'm asking why you're trying to marry Rachel when you're married to me. Was what you said earlier about protecting Rachel for life a lie? Or was our marriage itself a lie?" "I haven't lied about anything." Tom raised his voice as if to say he was being sincere, responding to my accusatory tone. Either way, his words were insincere, but at that moment, I didn't care. "Really? Then isn't this situation strange? You're married to me, but you'll protect Rachel for life. Sorry, but this country doesn't allow polygamy or bigamy." Tom then began to speak with a face like he was about to cry. "No, it's not like that. I wanted to marry Rachel at first, but Rachel is popular, right? I thought she wouldn't even look at someone like me. But because you were always with her, I thought maybe if I got close to you, I could eventually become friends with Rachel too." Hearing this, I was about to lose my temper, but decided to keep calm and let everyone hear everything. "So you approached me to get Rachel, and that was your intention from the start. That's why you've been avoiding the topic of children. That's right? Because if we had a child, I couldn't break up with you if I wanted to marry Rachel. I wanted him to deny it, but Tom honestly answered. While I was struggling to contain my anger, Tom started babbling without anyone asking, as if confessing everything would make me forgive him. Also, your family owns a high-end steak restaurant, and Lindsay's parents are nice people. So they treat me to a lot of meals. I thought being able to eat as much high-quality steak as I want whenever I wanted wasn't bad. I was about to hit him, but just as I was about to step down from the stage, Rachel, who had been silent until then, started laughing loudly. Ah ha ha ha. Well, isn't that great for you having such a talent? I didn't even want to order appetizers from you, but Tom insisted, so I did. Be grateful. And you know, I never thought of you as a friend from the start. You were just the perfect foil for me, and I've been using you all along. Rachel finally showed her true colors. Either she gave up hiding it or felt confident after hearing Tom's assessment of me. Either way, she started revealing various things like Tom did. It was a long plan. I met Tom in college and wanted to make him my partner, but Tom himself lacked the courage. I thought if I could use you to take him away, Tom would realize his charm, and I could discard you when you were no longer needed. Rachel's outrageous statements caused the hall to become noisy again. Rachel's parents covered their mouths, looking at their daughter as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Amidst this, Rachel clung to Tom and glared at me. Then David stepped forward and bowed to me. He also bowed to the guests and said in a clear voice, "We deeply apologize for the disgraceful behavior displayed by our daughter at this event. We are sincerely sorry for any discomfort this may have caused you." Then, turning back to me, he bowed again and apologized. "Lindsay, I am truly sorry. I never imagined my daughter would turn out to be such a person. We've been close since we were young, and to repay you like this, I don't even know what to say. I won't ask for your forgiveness, but could we possibly settle this matter amicably?" While I understand that a parent will defend their child no matter what they do, this is too much. If she shows no signs of remorse, I intend to make this public. At this exchange, Rachel's face turned pale. A bit away, Sophia was crying, and seeing that, Rachel seemed to lose even more color. Tom, in his misguided attempt to console her, was doing all the wrong things, trying to make her laugh or making gestures as if to hit me. Watching this, I wondered what I ever saw in Tom. Rachel, annoyed by Tom's gestures, tried to distance herself, but Tom seemed not to understand. Watching their interaction, I lost interest and decided to put an end to it. Well, now that your affair has been uncovered, I'll be seeking damages from Rachel and also from Tom, along with a demand for a divorce. What? Just because you weren't attractive enough, don't blame me for it, Rachel retorted with a look of utter disgust, and her parents were frantic. They remembered when I said I'd go public if Rachel showed no remorse. Tom, too indecisive and unclear, muttered something about not being able to pay, but that was not my concern. Irritated by their continued complaints, I firmly held the microphone and said, "Well then, I'll have to make it public. It might be good for you to experience what happens when you don't show proper remorse." As I was about to leave the stage, Rachel's parents desperately pleaded, "Lindsay, we'll take care of the damages. Just please don't go public. Please, we're begging you. I'm begging you, Lindsay. Please not in public." Seeing them so desperately defending Rachel made it seem like they only cared about their own interests. I frowned and looked at Rachel, but seeing her parents, she showed no sign of remorse. Fed up with the situation, I decided to deliver the final blow. "I don't know how long you plan to act so nonchalantly, but your cheating will be revealed soon enough." At my words, Rachel's eyes widened as everyone was shocked, and confusion began. I stepped down from the stage and made it clear through the microphone. "Everyone knows about your flings. You've been seen with multiple partners, choosing whoever is convenient at the time. How many people do you think have witnessed this? The latest info is from yesterday. You were seen entering a hotel with a man, just so you know." Immediately, David yelled out. Sophia began to cry loudly, and Tom was just flustered, not understanding the situation. The guests started to murmur, and eyewitness testimonies began to emerge. Taking advantage of the chaos, I dropped the microphone and left the scene. Feeling good, I returned home to find my parents closing up the shop early. When I asked why, they mentioned it was just to prepare the order for Rachel's house. Seeing the opportunity, I helped my parents close up and then told them about what had happened. They were outraged, but I desperately stopped them from getting involved to avoid unnecessary rumors attaching to their business. They reluctantly agreed, and we discussed the future. Divorce was a certainty, and we would deal with Rachel's family through lawyers. Tom, unsure of what to do in this situation, initially didn't want a divorce, but when faced with the final option of explaining to the parents-in-law, he quickly agreed to it. Even though society may view divorce negatively, he seemed to not understand at all why things turned out this way, which only made me angrier. However, the parents-in-law were reasonable, offering apologies over the phone and in person. They also promised to ensure Tom paid the damages from his earnings, which was satisfactory to me. The problem, however, was on Rachel's side. Despite the discussions through lawyers, she unexpectedly showed up without prior notice, wanting to talk. Since the shop was operating normally, we couldn't dismiss her and let her into our home. Talking with my mother, Rachel's parents didn't say much, instead desperately trying to hand over a paper bag. When asked what was inside, they only said it was their feelings, being vague. Frustrated, I asked again, and they revealed it was for the damages. Rachel, not showing up herself but trying to hand over money, angered both my mother and me. When asked whether they preferred being reported to the police for disturbing the business or leaving immediately without leaving anything behind, Rachel's parents quickly left. Despite these events, I successfully divorced. Since then, Rachel and her family haven't bothered me, and my shop has continued to thrive as usual. Yet, having grown up in a place where such troubles occurred, I couldn't find peace of mind. With my parents' advice and having a substantial amount of money at hand, I decided to take a bold step and move far away from my hometown. In this new place I chose, I thought of realizing something I had always dreamed of, albeit vaguely. I have always loved cooking, especially baking. I couldn't forget the joy of bringing my creations to school and seeing my classmates enjoy them. And I've always wanted to open a cafe someday. Fortunately, with the funds available, I am planning to open a cafe. While relaxing in my new condominium, despite the tough times I've faced, thinking about the future now fills me with excitement.